Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast, where we explore our shared love for watching and discussing movies, recorded in the late after-work hours, often in lieu of a good night's rest. I'm Madeline.
I'm Julian.
And I'm Emilio. And we're going to do something that we don't normally do to get started. If you are listening to us for the very first time, thank you for finding us. We know that there are a lot of options out there for this sort of thing, so we're grateful that you've tuned in and found us. Please stick around for the conversation that we're about to engage in. If this is the second, third, or 15th time that you've listened to us, thank you for sticking with us. We've really grown to love doing this, and it means the world to us that we have a budding listenership. If you haven't already, we'd ask you, please, return listener, to write a review for us in the podcast platform of your choice. Hopefully something positive. This is one of the ways that our podcast can continue to grow and find new audiences. So please, if you haven't already done that, we would greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. And of course, you can follow us on our various social media. We are on Instagram and on TikTok at Sleepless Cinematic Pod. And you can also email us because we would love to hear from you. You can email us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com.
And if you're on Letterboxd, you can follow myself, Julian, at my name, Julian_Barthold.
And you can follow me at Patroness of Cats.
We've never gotten to the bottom of this. What's the origin of that?
So last week, my mom texted me and she was like, oh, I saw this art print or something with Patron of Cats. And I thought of you because I listen to your podcast. And I was like, well, Mom, the reason that I have this is because you gave me a magnet that says Patron of Cats that I have in my fridge. And so when I was trying to think of a new username for something, I was like, there. It's like when you have to think of a fake name and you point at the stuff in the room. It was basically just that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for answering. I was keeping me up at night. Guys, tonight, very exciting. This is more of a bonus episode, a bit of a break from the cycle that we normally do. We are joined by a very special guest and a friend of the podcast, Matt Friedman. He is a fellow musician here in New York City. He's a band leader. He's a staple in the dueling piano scene, which is where I've gotten to know him. He has rubbed elbows with, befriended, and shared the stage with legends. Seriously. He is an elite piano man for hire. He is a lifelong New Yorker. He's a husband. He's a father. And most notably for our conversation today, quite the cinephile. Matt, it is a real pleasure having you on with us.
So glad to be on with you guys. Thanks for having me in here at the beginning of my day.
Sometimes it feels like the beginning of our day too.
Yeah.
Time check, 10:24 p.m.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk about a movie that you're pretty excited about, and I'm really excited to talk about too, to be honest. What movie is that, Matt?
The movie that we chose tonight is Unbreakable, M. Night Shyamalan's, to me, magnum opus of a movie. One of my favorites of all time, of any movie. There are probably about 20 or 30 movies that I've seen in my life 1,000 times. And I'm not even kidding about that. This one is probably approaching that now. It hasn't been out long enough to get 1,000, but it's getting to that point.
It's getting there. Very cool.
It's getting to that point.
Just before we get too deep into this, Unbreakable should not be confused with the movie Unbroken, the Angelina Jolie directed movie about the extraordinary life of Louis Zamperini, who was an Olympian, World War II soldier, POW survivor. That's not the movie we're talking about.
Should also not be confused with The Untouchables, the 1987 crime drama directed by Brian De Palma about Elliot Ness, the prominent prohibition officer, I guess you'd call him, in the era of Prohibition.
Yeah,
Yes.
Great Chicago movie, by the way.
That is true.
Great Chicago movie.
It should also not be confused with The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which was a Netflix show starring Ellie Kemper, I think created by Tina Fey.
Right.
I really enjoyed that show. I think that was a really great one. Extremely different from this movie, I'd say, in almost every way.
I would say so too.
If I may say, it should also not be confused with Unstoppable, the great action movie about a runaway train starring Chris Pine and the unbelievable Denzel Washington, directed by no longer with us, Tony Scott.
Yeah, I know. I think it might have been the last movie he did, right?
I think it was.
Yeah. I would also say thematically, this movie should not be confused with Regarding Henry, which is the Harrison Ford drama co-starring Annette Bening, which is also about a man who survives a terrible incident to discover something profound and life-altering about himself and possibly repair his fractured marriage. That's not this movie.
should not also be confused with Untraceable, which almost rhymes, which is a 2008 psychological thriller about the internet starring Diane Lane. I haven't seen this movie, but I know of it, and the near rhyme of the titles was enough that I wanted to point out that you shouldn't confuse it.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, a movie that I haven't seen, but I think you have, Julian, which was The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Nick Cage.
I have seen that movie. Found it a little underwhelming, to be honest.
All right.
But maybe there's not room for opinions here.
And going to your thematic thing, it should not be confused with Darkman, Sam Raimi masterpiece. Again, about a guy who has who is bestowed with unbelievable superpowers and near immortality. Very cool movie, by the way. Very atmospheric movie, but no, not to be confused.
Definitely. Interesting Liam Neeson performance.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Little over the top, but still pretty cool.
I mean, Sam Raimi. We've discussed
Sam
Raimi.
Simple Plan.
Raimi. I feel like Raimi and Shyamalan have some similarities in their choices.
Yeah, I never really thought about that until just now. But
you mentioned Liam Neeson, and I noticed that Sam Raimi, I don't know if it's like a knack for it or it's just pure luck, but he tends to have he directs a lot of performances with these really like big name actors those particular roles are not as well known.
Yeah.
Whether it's like Liam Neeson in Darkman or like Cate Blanchett in The Gift or like probably several people in A Simple Plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Bill Paxton.
Yeah. Interesting thing about him, his filmography.
Right.
Yeah. But we're not talking about Sam Raimi.
No. We'll save that for some other day.
Yeah.
We were talking Unbreakable. Before we get too deep into it, I just wanted to get a little bit more into you, Matt, a little bit of backstory. You're somebody who I've gotten to know over the years here playing music. And I think you just have a really fascinating story. Is there like a way that you can sum up a little bit of that?
I'll try to do it quick. Been a musician for a long time, but I also was a lawyer for way too long of a time. Never enjoyed that job, not even for 1 microsecond of it. When 9/11 happened, I was feet away from everything that was going on and decided that day, since my office was just a block away, that I never wanted to be a lawyer again, and I was going to find a way not to do that. Fortuitously, a few months later, I heard that Billy Joel was going to have a musical on Broadway called Moving Out, and I made it my life's mission to get that musical so I never had to be a lawyer again. It took me 3 years, and intervening in that 3 years was me playing at Billy Joel's wedding in 2004, where a lot of high profile people saw me do my thing.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, I was able to get that part and give my boss at the law firm 3 days notice and head down to Florida and start touring the country as, the Piano Man, which lasted for a long time. And it's been all downhill ever since, but I'm a musician, full time. I retired from law. I'm always busy. I'm always working, and I'm always doing what I love. So these days that would be, the dueling piano circuit, which I just really enjoy. Keeps you on your toes. It's very spontaneous. And I have a really great corporate event and wedding band that I'm a part of with some really talented, local people here.
Someone who's having a real moment right now.
I know. Yeah. So a real moment right now. Absolutely. I'm very lucky with that. And I, kept the Billy Joel thing alive. I still do my Billy Joel tribute every now and then, which is, not one of those lookalike tributes. It's one of those, performance tributes. And I still get to hang with those guys and be a part of that world in some ways, which is really lucky for me, and that's kind of like my background. Oh, and I love movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's so cool. I feel like I heard a little bit of the your kind of origin story of like rededicating, I guess, back into music after your time as a lawyer, and I found it so inspiring. It
very,
was
very inspirational, aspirational.
All those things.
It was, it was the story I think I told you was that I actually have a very good memory of what was my best day as a lawyer. I was doing a trial, and the plaintiff in that trial was sort of a celebrity who was suing our insurance company for millions of dollars. My bosses didn't know how to handle someone in the entertainment world and the specific damages they were looking for, but I did. And I took that case and I tore it to shreds and eventually got the damages reduced from $4.5 million to $9,000.
Wow.
And my boss had come to the courtroom to watch because he was so concerned. He never left the office. He came to watch the trial, and he literally danced in the aisle of the courtroom when I succeeded. And I walked home from work that day over the Brooklyn Bridge, as I used to do. I lived in downtown Brooklyn at the time. Stopped in the middle of the Brooklyn Bridge, was looking at the Statue of Liberty out in the harbor there, and I said to myself, today still sucked. That was my reaction to the best day of my life. So when I had that chance to leave that, and as I've told you, Emilio, my worst day as a musician, I'm still doing what I love.
Yeah.
So, if I'm playing in a bar to 5 people who don't even really care, at least I'm playing and singing, something that I love to do. So, and I make it work.
That's so cool, man. I love hearing that. You talked about how you love movies.
I do.
Yeah.
Always.
Bit of a, well, get a little bit into that if you don't mind. Like, what are your early memories of like falling in love with movies?
Oh, my first movie that I ever saw, I remember it very well. I was 3 years old. I was living in Columbus, Georgia. My dad was in the Army. I was in Fort Benning, and he took me to go see Fantasia at that time, which is kind of like the perfect first movie for me with the incredible music that is in there, along with like the amazing, artwork
the visuals,
and animation and all that. So obviously just fell in love with that. I'm a huge sci-fi nut. So basically any sci-fi movie, good or bad, I'm going to go see it.
Yeah.
But honestly, there was a point when I was in high school, I had a really good friend, my best friend in the world, Brian. There was a time when we were in high school, we were going to 4 movies a week.
Wow.
We would literally, because first of all, movies were cheap. I'm old. Movies were cheap. They were like $2.
Yeah.
So, if you had any kind of job where you made a little money, you're spending $8 a week to go see 4. We'd give any movie a chance, no matter what it was, good or bad, whatever the reviews were. Let's see how bad this movie really is and spend our $2 to see it. And that's what we would do. Yeah. We also had a very... I can say this now because I think the statute of limitations has expired. We used to sneak into movies all the time. We were really good at it. So I think
you're good.
Our record, I think, was 11 hours worth of movies in one day.
Wow.
And on that day, we saw, in the same day, Dances with Wolves, Godfather 3, RoboCop 2, and something else that I can't remember. We just kept.
I was going to guess Goodfellas. Given
it wasn't good. It wasn't Goodfellas. It wasn't Goodfellas though.
You'd remember that.
Oh yeah, I would remember that absolutely. But yeah, that was a great. We got there at just after breakfast, and we left. It's completely dark and it was crazy. But we used to just do that. So again, any movie that came out, good or bad, we'd give it a chance. These days, unfortunately, I have to be a little bit more selective with what I go see.
I think
but
we all are. Yeah.
But thank goodness we have all of these streaming channels and things where we can see things that we may or may not have gotten to go to the theater, but there are still like these event movies that I'm gonna make sure I have to go.
Yeah, for sure.
And to me, like my best experiences, going to movies were the same experience but 2 different films. I saw the first Lord of the Rings movie, The Fellowship of the Ring, in a gigantic theater by myself on Christmas Day. I was the only person in the theater because I went to
did it come out on Christmas or was it?
It was December. I think it actually came out December 16th of whatever year it was.
Okay.
And I saw it opening night, but I saw it in the theater where they had oversold and people were sitting in the aisles and they were bringing chairs in. It was 130 degrees. So I went back on Christmas Day to the first show of the day, like 9:00. I guess most people were in church.
Opening their stockings.
Exactly. Yeah. I was the only person. I sat in the middle seat of the middle row and just sat there. The movie blasted me away. It was unbelievable. And then I did the same thing again for Blade Runner 2049. I was the only person in the theater the night that I went to see it. And I think it may have even been opening night. After waiting for so long for that movie, because I love Blade Runner, I was not disappointed. It was a great experience for me to see that. So,
cool. Amazing. Is there anything about the movie we're going to talk about today, Unbreakable, that, I mean, I know you said, you've seen it, approaching hundreds of times. Yeah. Is there something specific about that movie or maybe even a little more general that kind of puts it in that class for you?
Yes. I, being the nerdy, geeky kid that I was also a comic book collector. So I had a huge collection growing up of
3,000 comics?
May have been closer to like 12,000 comics, actually.
3,312.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Is that what you're saying?
At the very beginning, right?
But I had thousands and thousands of comics, and one of my brothers is still a avid collector and is actually really like best friends with John Romita Jr., who I think you guys know is Spider-Man and Superman and all these guys these days. My brother wrote a book recently about Arthur Conan Doyle, which got some national attention. He had some pretty controversial theories about him that are in there, and it was illustrated by John Romita, who did some really amazing artwork for it. So I always have had some very close connections to the comic book world. So obviously when that movie came out, it was it was a very a good affinity for me to see that film. It really hit on different levels than some films would hit.
Yeah, I it's funny because when I was watching this movie, I felt like it is pro comic book, but there's some aspects to it also that seem to cut the other way.
Yeah.
Yes, comic books, wonderful sort of world creation, but also in the wrong hands.
They've corrupted the villain.
Right.
No, you're right.
Yeah. It's a small aspect, I think, of the viewing experience. But
although to me, actually, it was a little larger because I felt that there were several times in that movie where I want to use the word like storyboarded.
Yeah,
definitely.
Like when you're looking at what you would consider to be a comic book panel.
Totally.
Like case in point, when Samuel L. Jackson's character Elijah is looking down the subway stairs when he's pursuing the man with the
guy
gun
in the camouflage jacket.
It pulls back and you see the stairs, grow, and he's getting swallowed. It was such a comic book panel to me that it really was kind of like a living comic book to me, and how he did that. So.
There are a lot of shots like that. Like when Samuel L. Jackson, but like young, the little version of him, like gets the comic book from his mom, and it's like the shot's upside down, and then it starts to spin, but the comic book spins with it, so it's still upside down. Yeah. I'm like his mind.
I know. Yeah.
I
think that's like kind of the iconic shot from the movie.
Yeah.
I feel. I don't know. You were in
it's just like we'll probably get a little deeper into it as this conversation goes on, but I loved the cinematography of Unbreakable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, without even making the comic book connection while watching it, it's just objectively great cinematography.
Yeah.
And I was thinking too, I mean, this may be more debatable, but that first real scene of the movie where, not the first, it's the first scene with Bruce Willis, his character, David Dunn, on the train where there's that. It's mostly a single take, but it goes back and forth in that perspective of the kid watching from the seat ahead on the train. I mean, there was something that kind of made me think of a comic book there. I could see that being divided, a more divided up version of that.
Yeah, because it's shot through the seats
right
on the train.
Yeah, I could see a more divided up version of that where it's like separate panels. Something about that just works to me.
Yeah, I also think the very first shot of the movie is so cool how it toggles back and forth between showing you what's being reflected on a mirror and then kind of drifting so that you see people not in the mirror, but then drifting back to the mirror.
Yeah.
It's so intentional in how it wants to frame its characters, like you said. Like you literally feel like you're watching sort of a comic book come to life. I can think of a couple other ones that jump to mind. Like there's that scene when Elijah comes to the stadium and that conversation where he's like, you could have chosen any number of things, but it's like between bars,
right?
It's like there's that. And then even the very first scene where they meet and the camera drifts from the street to the window and you see in the window pane, you see David and his son entering.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like
you have a lot of the glass as well, which is that same kind of thing. Again, when like young Elijah, when we first see him, not as a baby, but as a child, it's like we're seeing him reflected in the television.
In the TV. Yeah. But before we go a whole lot further, I did want to mention, so you love this movie. I saw this movie when it was a new release. It just came out like on video, and I had seen it after The Sixth Sense. And I remember thinking it was quite good when I first saw it. And then I think I saw it about maybe 2 or 3 years later as a teenager. And I remember being like, whoa, that is like a really good movie. And come to think of it, I don't think I've seen it since.
Wow.
And so watching it again this time was really cool because this movie stuck with me in a really strong way. So many scenes from this movie still feel very etched in my brain. How about you guys? What was your exposure to this? Because I feel like maybe it's kind of new for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was, in terms of viewing, up until earlier this week, completely new for me. I had not seen it before 2 days ahead of this recording, but I had known about it for some time. And I think I had just, during the era that I consider to really be my cinephile awakening, which is around when I was 17, 18 years old, I was just filling up my brain with, if not, plenty of movies specifically, but also just like film landscape stuff, broad connections between movies, things that are supposed to be good or worth watching. And I think that I was already aware of The Sixth Sense at that time, but then I learned about Unbreakable in that period as another one of the, you could call them the good Shyamalan movies. Because at that, I came of age in the aughts, the 2000s. And at that time, Shyamalan was on what appeared to be a notably
Cold streak?
Yeah, cold streak.
Decline, right?
Yeah. So I think I had been tangentially aware of The Sixth Sense, but my first real exposure to Shyamalan was hearing about movies like The Lady in the Water or The Happening or notoriously The Last Airbender. So I think that was more, to use a word I often use, salient in my mind than like there being some quality stuff of his.
Yeah, something that I feel like I've picked up on, Julian, is that you haven't seen a lot of Shyamalan.
No. This is only, I think, the third movie of his I've officially seen. The previous two were The Sixth Sense and, well, actually pretty appropriately for this convo, Split.
Yeah, so that's my in on this, which is I also had not seen this. I had intended to for a long time. When you kind of pitched this as a potential film, I was like, I really want to see this. This is really high on my to-watch list. And part of it is because I watched Split and I did not care for it. Mm-hmm. I did not particularly like it. And also, spoiler for Split, but at the end, you get Bruce Willis as David very briefly. Mm-hmm. And as someone who had not seen Unbreakable, it did not really make any sense to me. I understand kind of what he was going for in that particular scene, but I didn't understand the connection back to this movie because I had not seen it. So I was like, I don't know who that guy is in the larger universe. So I had really wanted to see this. I'm really glad that I finally got to it because I really enjoyed this film. And I knew I had pretty high expectations for this, and I knew it was going to be very different from Split. And I've not seen Glass. Maybe I thought about trying to squeeze it in before this conversation. I did not get to it.
Yeah, I have not seen Split. Similar to you, actually, I think I've really only seen what kind of came before M. Night's quote unquote cold streak.
Yeah.
You mentioned Lady in the Water. I've seen the 4 movies that came before. So I've seen Sixth Sense, I've seen Unbreakable, I've seen Signs, and I've seen The Village. And all of them to some varying degree I enjoyed. The Village for me was maybe the one I enjoyed the least.
Hit or miss on that one.
Yeah, I feel like
it had its moments though.
Aren't there?
It does. It has its moments for sure.
They're kind of a fan community for that movie. There are some people who actually think it's great.
There are
definitely
people who love that movie.
Yeah.
I did not join that community. I think it has certain things about it that are strong.
Yeah.
It doesn't rank in his top to me. Yeah. Split though, I got to tell you,
you're a Split defender.
I'm a Split defender, but I'll just say that when Split came out, nobody knew.
Yeah, they didn't.
They didn't give you any notice that it was going to be an actual sequel to in its way to. Right. So when that moment happened in the theater, I gasped out loud. I had but I will tell you, I knew it was coming 30 seconds before it happened because of the music. Because the music playing in the back was da, 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 the very recognizable theme from Unbreakable.
If you know Unbreakable, yes.
And then all of a sudden he turns at the I'm like, oh my God, it's him.
Yeah.
So there was just that little bit. I knew it was coming, but
my understanding is since Unbreakable for over a decade, it was is he going to do a sequel? Please do a sequel. And I think for a long time it was maybe we don't really know. We'll see. And so I do think it's so interesting that he makes this choice, but they don't market it that way.
Yeah, they didn't market it well. And I think, again,
marketing sorry, go ahead.
That goes to the twists
exactly.
aspect, which we'll talk about later. But
he had to make it a twist. Yeah. 2 points on that. In researching this a little bit, it seems like M. Night was actually really interested in making a sequel much earlier than he did to Unbreakable. But I think this movie, Unbreakable, didn't really have the response that he was hoping that it would get.
Yeah.
Part of it was also due, we were talking about marketing, I think due to the marketing of this movie. This movie, I think, came out hot on the heels of The Sixth Sense, which I think was something of like a cultural phenomenon. I remember when that movie came out, it was like, people were like, you gotta go see this movie. It blew everyone's mind.
And nobody was giving away the twist. They refused to give it away, which I thought was amazing, that people were going, and I'm not going to tell you what happens, but you got to go. Like it was that good that people refused to spoil it for everybody else.
Unless you were an elementary school kid at this time.
Maybe that's fresh off the release, but I was 2 years old when The Sixth Sense came out. I missed that time, and so when I first heard about it, I think the first thing most people said was ruining the twist.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's grown.
Yeah, it was definitely at the time.
Yeah,
it was definitely at the time.
Worth saying though that like even knowing the twist at the end of The Sixth Sense, I was still impressed when I finally saw that movie by how it's done.
Right.
I honestly think that there's a whole wave of movies in like the late 1990s, early 2000s that are known for their twists, whether it's like Fight Club or Usual Suspects, things of that sort. And I honestly think that of that bunch, I think The Sixth Sense does it the best.
I'll give you that.
It's pretty cool, and one of the things that really stuck with me watching Unbreakable that I think is effectively done in The Sixth Sense, and it's not something I think that M. Night really gets a lot of credit for, but I think he has, when he's firing on all cylinders, he has a pretty good emotional core or command of emotion in the characters. And Sixth Sense, watching that, like the whole movie slowly kind of sets you up so that when you get that ending, you're like, oh my God, I feel like I know this guy now.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
And so it feels way more than just a gimmick.
And Unbreakable, I mean, the pathos that you feel in that movie is for Elijah. They are manipulating you in that you care about him, the pain that he's going through, the torture that he's always feeling, his sense of not belonging, of being alienated outside of society. You feel for him so badly, and then
it's like this. I know people talk about this as like, oh, this is a superhero origin story movie. I watched this and I'm like, this is a villain origin story movie.
Yeah,
because even though like I think arguably David is the main character, like you feel so much for Elijah. I think really like he is the emotional core of this movie.
He absolutely is, yeah.
And well, maybe now's a good time to say, as if it wasn't clear enough already, spoiler alert for Unbreakable.
Yeah.
It's a Shyamalan movie, and of course, where there's Shyamalan, there's a twist.
And I want to ask you guys really quickly, because you guys had some familiarity with Split and the knowledge that there was a movie called Glass.
Yeah.
I'm super curious. Did you guys see the twist of this movie coming?
That's what's so interesting. And I think we'll get into this a little bit, the why of this a little bit later. I just find Shyamalan movies so entertaining and engaging that I don't find my mind wandering enough to really think about it.
I felt similarly.
So even though I'm like, I feel like if I had paused this movie and thought for 5 seconds, I would have been like, yeah, I mean, that's the twist, whatever. Like I had a sense of like, well, he's the villain. He's Mr. Glass is like, up to something bad. The twist of like he's orchestrated the terrorism. Yeah. I don't think I really saw that coming. I feel like if you had paused it and asked me, then I probably would have been like, yeah, it's that. But
or if you had a leading question.
Yeah, I just didn't think about it because I was just having a good time.
Yeah. How about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think my experience, and this sort of foreshadows a question I posed to us in preparation for this conversation. My experience of the movie was just that I was, really into what it was going for the whole way through. And I think there was plenty to chew on, like aesthetically in terms of like the story arc, that just like you said, Madeline, my mind was not really going to, wait, is there going to be a twist? I thought it was just like this kind of self-sufficient revisionist superhero movie. Yeah. And then when the twist did happen, though, there was part of me that's like, oh, of course it's Shyamalan, but also another part of me that really was like, oh, yeah, that's perfect.
Like there came a point, because it's revealed so late, that there came a point where I was like, maybe there's not going to be a twist in this one. That seems uncharacteristic.
That would be the twist.
That would be the twist. Yeah. You said, Matt, that did you see this movie in theaters?
I did.
And did you say that it was like an audible gasp
Well, the gasp that I was talking about earlier was when I saw Split in the theater.
Oh, sorry.
But no, there was when that happened in Unbreakable. It was the same thing. The crowd had no idea, at least the crowd I was with, that this was coming. And what you said earlier, you're hot off the heels of The Sixth Sense. You know something's coming with this guy, and yet no one knew this was coming. That to me. And I think it's the question that I pose for later is what bears examination. How does he succeed in manipulating his audiences to somehow forget that there's going to be a twist coming? I don't I don't get it. It's like it's really part of his genius as a filmmaker that he can do that. However he does it.
One of the things too that I always think about when I think about this movie is I don't think it's my favorite superhero movie. But I like to joke, or maybe not joke, I think maybe say with all seriousness that this is a superhero movie for people who don't like superhero movies.
Yeah.
And I happen to be somebody who's not drawn to superhero movies.
I was going to say, when you say this is not your favorite superhero movie, I'm curious as to what your favorite superhero movie would be.
I actually think it would be The Dark Knight.
Okay.
I know that's a little bit of a normie answer, but that movie it's so good.
Great film.
Yeah.
But this is really close.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
Because I know you were not MCU pilled in general.
No.
My guess for you is going to be Batman Returns.
I like Batman Returns too.
Great movie.
Yeah, that one is, I find, although I know we were talking earlier, Matt, about your experience with Batman. I kind of like Batman Returns more than the first Batman.
Oh, there's definitely stuff to like about the second one more than the first. I mean, just Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
There's Michelle Pfeiffer there.
Oh my God, that Catwoman performance will never be topped, no matter who tries to top it. That was incredible. So, no, I totally agree. Actually, to me, The Dark Knight is in tie for first with the original Superman. And again, because I'm old, I saw that in the theater when I was 8.
Right.
So, I remember leaving the theater and literally trying to fly to the car. I was jumping. I was running in the parking lot when my parents were screaming behind me. I was literally running as fast as I could, just jumping in the air. Yeah. That's how that movie, the epic nature of that film, to me, made that number one until The Dark Knight came out, which was incredible to me. So, but yeah, I agree with you also. Again, the thing about this movie that separates it from most of these other superhero movies is the lack of need for special effects, CGI, any of that other stuff. It's
all of that.
It's
100%.
Purely human action taken to a slightly superhuman level and not reliant on tricks to make you believe it. That's what the genius of it is.
Because they also have these additions like, I didn't say you couldn't die, and he's like, having to add the weight to the weight in the weightlifting scene. Like they're adding it gradually. It's like at no point is it like, no, he's completely unbreakable, invincible. It's like he still has his limits. He still has to work towards this as a skill.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that.
Yes.
Because I disagree with you.
He
has
or at
no
least
limits.
He thinks so, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
He may think so, but he has no limits.
Yeah, I think.
And I will talk about that.
I actually don't. I don't think we're going to disagree on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
but I think kind of the movie presents it as like Mr. Glass thinks that he's going to have to develop this skill, and that's kind of what he's told David as well.
He says it. He's like, when he has that intuition about the guy in the camouflage jacket, he says, have you ever tried to develop
your powers?
That skill?
Yeah.
The other thing that I love about this movie is how at any point that you hear Elijah telling his sort of theory, David's like, dude, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Get away from me. And he does, and he leaves. But that also there's enough of a kernel of this accident has made David somehow more susceptible and has awakened something in him.
Yeah.
And so the movie rides this perfect line of like Elijah's stuff hangs out and is just like gnawing at him just enough.
Yeah.
And he makes just enough room for him. His one fatal flaw is he always leaves him with one little bit of extra information.
Yeah, totally.
He's like, I work as a security guard at the university.
Right.
Yeah.
It was my wife, Audrey. Like, didn't have to say the name, but when he does. No CGI, no big special effects, no like huge like suspension of disbelief. The stuff in this movie that is quote unquote supernatural is all like just enough.
Right.
Yeah. And there's also this idea that everything that Elijah thinks he knows is just theory. Like he's just been trying to find this person that he assumes is out there, but he doesn't know anything either. The things he's telling David are just theories of his.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, that's a hole. That's one big hole, or like, oh, that's a hard one to get past.
Yeah.
Right.
In terms of like vibe and arc in some ways, I was thinking a lot. I don't know if any of you made this connection, but there were a lot of things about Unbreakable that kind of felt like a proto Jordan Peele movie. And the first moment when I really thought about that was actually right at the beginning, when you see that all those epigraphs about comic books, and it made me think a lot of at the beginning of Us. Where there's like those epigraphs about tunnels under the United States that you just see them and you're like, what? At first, and you don't really know what it's going to mean until you see as the movie plays out. But also this sense, now that we've started to talk about it, there's a realism that some of the characters emerge from, but then there are these theories they have that in the reality of the movie exist, but that they're not really sure about. And, they have to spend a lot of time if not convincing themselves, being exposed to it to really understand it.
Yeah.
I think that's to some degree true of all Jordan Peele movies so far.
I like that too. I think another comparison that I felt watching it this time around is another movie that I know that you really like, we've talked about, is The Shawshank Redemption. I don't know what it is about this movie, but like combination of the score, a combination of like the themes of somebody like finding their purpose in life. I could not shake this like feeling of like a Frank Darabont movie. There's like some weird shared DNA.
Also, because in like The Green Mile, you have that supernatural stuff around the edges.
A little bit, yeah.
Right.
I mean, and even just the to me, it was like the kind of story of David Dunn and the story of Andy Dufresne. Almost kind of feel like there's like some weird parallels there.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen Sixth Sense, but this is the Shyamalan movie.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I love The Sixth Sense. And we were talking about it before we started tonight, how much I love that film. But I think this one it's a little better. And I think it's better to me because, again, contextually, knowing that you had The Sixth Sense that already existed when this came out, that he was able to succeed so well with this, despite the fact that The Sixth Sense already was out there.
Yeah.
Shows me how great this movie really is.
Yeah. And this movie also feels so much like a blank check movie, but also like a first movie that someone makes. Like there's so many ideas, there's so much visual flair. There's so much in the story that feels like somebody who's dying to get it out. And I just find it really interesting that it's like the third movie that he made.
Right.
But kind of the first time I think he was really kind of given like, oh, Sixth Sense was a massive hit. I'm not. What do you got next? Do your thing. Yeah.
It's almost like The Sixth Sense was just the movie he made so that he could then make Unbreakable.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of how it feels watching it now.
Yeah.
I think this might be my favorite Bruce Willis performance.
He's great in this.
Oh yeah,
He's so good in this movie, and I find it kind of bittersweet because the Shyamalan movies for him are like at a really interesting crossroads.
Yeah.
Because the late 80s and 90s, very filled with action films and comedies. He's in Moonlighting. He's so good in Moonlighting. He's just like, he's got so much charisma and, literally, leading right up into these Shyamalan films. And I feel like it's like right after his career just like never quite was the same. Outside of his work in ensembles and sequels, he was never the lead in a huge hit again. I'm wondering though, like, is there something that you guys saw in Bruce Willis's characterization of David Dunn that feels particularly like good clay for Shyamalan to work with?
There is. And I was thinking about that. To me, it's how he acts when he's not speaking.
Yeah.
He acts with his eyes.
He has
acts with
such
expression.
sad eyes.
The eyes say so much. His face says so much. His body movement, his posture. I mean, one of the things I know about Bruce Willis, and there are several other actors that do this, is that they try to find the physicality of the part before they play the part. And an example of that was the movie that we almost discussed tonight, which was L.A. Confidential. Russell Crowe playing the character of Bud White. In the books,
he's huge.
Bud White is like 6'8", like he's gigantic, and Russell Crowe is like 5'10". So the director Curtis Hanson told him, I want you to still act like you're that size. You have to be that kind of imposing. So what did he do? He moved into an apartment that was literally an apartment for a small person.
Oh.
My best friend lived in one of those.
Where he couldn't, he had to duck just to get in the apartment. Like everything was small, and he lived in this apartment before the movie for like a month.
Wow.
And by the time he came out of this apartment, he just, everywhere he went, he felt like he was a giant because he felt so huge in this small space that he created that physicality. Now, Bruce Willis did the same thing in one of his movies. For the life of me, I can't remember the title of it. Maybe you guys will. Where he is an older cop and it's a hostage situation. Maybe
Is it called Hostage?
I'm not sure if it was Hostage. I think was Mos Def in this movie.
Oh, 16 Blocks.
16 Blocks.
That's a
where
good movie.
He has a limp in that movie.
Okay.
He literally put a rock in his shoe and walked around with that rock for the entire filming to make sure that the limp was consistent for the entire time. He created the physicality of the character before he inhabited it. And I think that you see that in the preparation that Bruce Willis did for this film. I mean, even though he doesn't know that he's never been sick or that he can't be hurt.
Weird.
Yeah.
When you watch him in this film, when you watch him move, everything about him, especially like when he's at the stadium and he gets his little instinctive, what's that over there? You just see the posture and the movement is that of, it just reminded me of Batman. Like it reminded me of a superhero. He knows inside that is there, even though he's not acknowledging it consciously. I think that's how he prepared for this, and you see it. But again, the ability to emote without speaking in this film, there are so many times where he's just acting with his face.
Yeah, of course.
And that to me was what was the most successful part of this film.
Yeah.
Those scenes.
I'm totally with you. I mean, there are a number of scenes in the movie.
Think about the breakfast table at the end.
That's what I was thinking of.
That's one of the greatest scenes ever, where he just pushes the paper and he looks at his son, and the whole conversation is had just with a slight little smile and a drop of his eyes, and then he just puts his finger in front of his mouth. That is like 1,000 words right there, and he said nothing.
Yeah,
it's incredible. That's what I think was his best part there.
Yeah, I'm with you. His physicality in the movie is really, really felt. You were talking about his eyes too. I totally agree. There's like a real sadness, and his character has to be sad. You have to feel like there's something incomplete about him, or that he's been kind of shaken to his core, outside of just the fact that he's the lone survivor of this crazy accident.
Yeah, that's the thing that I attempted to watch this movie twice in the last week. I'd say I got once and 4/5 of the way. So I got close. I did not watch the very end a second time, but something that really struck me on my 4/5 second watch was just how sad this man is. I mean, it's obvious on the first watch, but just this, and I think because Bruce Willis just does a great job of embodying that, particularly physically, as you said, like there's this intense sadness in him that you can tell has been there for a long time. And that is so affecting in this movie. And one thing that you kind of started to talk about is the fact that he has never really noticed that he never gets sick and has never been hurt. And he's never really processed that, which on first watch, I was like, that's kind of weird. Like you would think he would pick up on that. But on 4/5 rewatch, I think that it's his depression. Like it is so much of why he
feels really bad all the time.
Exactly. Regardless.
That takes the place of being sick. That it's a mental sickness. It's an emotional sickness rather than a physical sickness.
I like that.
That's why it's not as apparent to him that he has not been physically hurt.
There's a real irony to calling the movie Unbreakable, because on the one hand, I mean, it totally fits, the superhuman conceit of his character. But emotionally, I don't think I would ever say that about him.
I'd say he's pretty broken.
Yeah. And the other thing that I really do love about how the movie kind of operates is, okay, a good director, I find, they do a really good job of knowing when you're supposed to see somebody speak and when you're also supposed to see the reactions. This movie has so many really great moments like that, where the camera's kind of moving back and forth between people. I'm thinking about the scene where he speaks to his wife, Audrey, and he's like, do you remember the last time I got sick? It's so cool how the camera moves, because it shows them together in the frame and then slowly kind of drifts from one to the other. It really does draw you in. just really, really effective stuff, man.
I think it also
yeah.
really underlines like the distance between them, even though
Absolutely.
physically they're very close, but she's standing like they're separated by this doorway.
Yeah.
And they're having marital problems, and it seems like they have been for a while. So I think that really underlines that.
For sure.
There were a lot of scenes in this movie that when it came to cinematography, there would be just kind of like one unbroken shot, unbreakable shot, where like, it's as we just described, it'll start on one side of the room and it slowly moves to the other. And that kind of made me think of, it may sound like a lofty comparison, but it kind of made me think of Andrei Tarkovsky, the way that like in a bunch of his movies, like the entire scene will just kind of happen in one shot with like a slow moving dolly or pan or something. This is not pejorative to comic book movies, but I really was not expecting that kind of aesthetic touch in a movie of quite this persuasion, which is part of, what contributes to my view, and I'm sure many other people's view of it as a revisionist superhero movie.
We should get into that a little bit.
Yeah. So there was a question that I posed, as we were preparing for this, about this very aspect of the film. And it's just that, like, I think I was interested in watching it, that, like, this is something that for me, like, I'm a very story-focused viewer. And for me, I was in it all of the way. And I'm sure there were many other viewers, everyone at this table and beyond, who were also in it for exactly the same reasons. But I was interested in how the movie noticeably shied away from having action, despite being, well, a superhero movie, or so it says.
Bruce Willis.
And starring Bruce Willis at that.
Right,
That's a great
right.
point. Yeah, and so, like, it wouldn't surprise me, knowing today's audiences, I feel like if this movie came out today, it could have, like, on Rotten Tomatoes, it could have, like, a certified fresh score, but a pretty low audience rating because of the lack of action. I think a lot of people, for lack of a better term, have kind of simplistic intentions when they watch a movie going in with expectations like that it's a superhero movie. I bet there were people at the time it came out who thought similarly. I mean, maybe, Matt, you can speak more to that than I can. But, yeah, I was just wanted to consider this idea of superhero film revisionism and how do we consider the film's eschewal of genre tropes in terms of its tone, its narrative, aesthetically. I have ideas that I'll share, but what were some of your thoughts on that?
Well, going to what you just said about at the time, since I was of a time, yes, at the time that the movie came out, the superhero and the action movies were evolving, not to nearly where they are now, like where you have like Avengers, where you have like these almost cartoonish set pieces with all this gigantic stuff happening all the time and the CGI. But the critique back then was, yes, it's a little slow for what we were expecting, and it was not a blockbuster. It made money, but it wasn't a blockbuster, especially on the heels of The Sixth Sense, which did obviously economically
gangbusters,
much better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that definitely because this movie did not fit the expectations of the superhero genre or the action genre at the time, that definitely may have affected audience perception or like of it. As far as what you said about the, reconstructing the comic book genre, considering how, comic books were back in the day, yes, you had the early days of Superman, which were, him jumping around and bashing criminals, whatever. But Detective Comics back in the day was more contemplative and Batman being a detective and solving clues. So it really depends on which genre of comic you were reading at the time.
What kind of context you were expecting.
Right.
Coming in with.
Exactly.
With,
but and listen, comic books have evolved over time as well. In the 40s and early 50s, Batman was that more deliberate superhero. Then you got into the 60s where everything became very cartoonish. And, of course, when the TV show came out, it really became cartoonish and all that.
Right.
Then there was the revolt against that, which resulted in the 1989 Batman, which only had traces of that comic aspect of it, which was, and then more focused on the action, which was more favored in the day. I actually think if this movie came out today, it would probably do well.
Interesting.
Especially in light of, directors like you said, like Denis Villeneuve and his movies coming out, with Arrival and Blade Runner 2049 and even Dune and things like that, because it fits more of that aesthetic of the genre and is almost kind of a relief from the other superhero, hitting you over the head with a hammer type of movies that are out there, like Aquaman and all these other things.
Green screen.
Right, exactly. This is very different. I think it probably would have been pretty well received. Maybe like what you say, maybe not by a lot of audiences. Critically, I think it would have done better now than it did then.
Yeah, I can. Now that you say that, I can kind of see it being like an A24 movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also feel like this movie sort of suffered by comparison to The Sixth Sense, just because from public perception. Like
Right.
I think that when the movie was first marketed, they were like, "This is Sixth Sense Part 2," or like,
Yeah.
like if you
Yes.
love The Sixth Sense, you're gonna love Unbreakable.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like from the
Unfair.
director of The Sixth
Yeah.
Sense. Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm not going to lie, watching it and, you know, going through that inciting incident of the movie, that train crash that sets the whole thing in motion. And you see after that all happens that David Dunn is just unscathed. I'm not going to lie. I had a thought like, is he dead? Is he really dead here? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This whole movie's a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. This movie just feels like it really ramps up everything that The Sixth Sense gives you from a visual storytelling perspective.
Mhm.
It goes so much further on some of these kind of formal decisions of like Elijah always being in purple.
I was going to say
Oh,
the use of
yeah.
color.
The use of
Yeah.
color is so strong in this
You
movie.
know,
It's
David
so good.
Dunn in green and
Yeah.
but here's an interesting one for you. In The Sixth Sense, it was red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever there's red, something's dead. That's the
Yeah.
rule there in
right.
The Sixth
Yeah.
Sense. One interesting thing I noted in Unbreakable is the use of red, yellow, green, orange.
Huh.
And the scene that best personified it is in the train station at the end where Elijah tells him,
Yeah. The characters and what
where-
they're wearing.
yes, and but it's throughout the film. If
Okay,
you watch
okay.
it, low level threat is red.
Interesting. So like a flip.
Mid-level threat is yellow. High-level threat is green. And then when it is the one you got to stop,
It's orange.
it's orange. And what that reminded me of, by the way, was like at a car racing event,
Yeah.
where you have the red, yellow, green, and then the fire comes out of the back of the car as the car speeds out. That's really what
Yeah.
it reminded me of.
Yeah,
So when
yeah.
you have that scene when she's just stealing the necklace, it's red. When they throw the bottle at the person on the street, it's yellow. When he's going to drug the girl on the bed and have his way, it's green. But then when the murderer comes,
He's in the orange jumpsuit.
that's
Yeah.
what sets him in motion. That's the fire out of the car.
Yeah.
But that happens more than once in the film. You kind of have to look for it where these red, yellow, green, orange threats are used. So yes, like you said, ramping up everything from The Sixth Sense. In The Sixth Sense, it was purely the red.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here it was number one, the purple for
Elijah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, what I thought was interesting in the flash in the stadium where we have our director cameo,
Yes, of course.
where
Gotta have
our
it.
Alfred Hitchcock
Our
moment here.
Hitchcock moment. Yeah.
It's blue.
Yeah.
That's
He's
right.
like,
He's wearing
I get
blue.
my
And the
own
reason
color.
it's blue is that the lead is cold. It's cold lead. It's
Good
so
point.
that's again, these are his uses of color, which I love these
Yeah,
uses of color.
I
I'm
know.
so enthusiastic
We
about
just,
this.
I don't want to ruin because we're gonna release this before, but we just got done talking about a movie that very near and dear to me. Heather's has really
Yeah.
cool use
Yes,
of
use of
color all
color.
throughout, and in this movie, it's like it's played to such great effect. I mean, it really is there to kind of lead you along and also sort of foreshadow a lot that goes on in this
Yeah,
movie.
I love that because I picked up on the purple, obviously. I didn't pick up on a lot of this others other than I'm like, that orange jumpsuit, that's a terrible outfit choice for a criminal because it makes you just so easy to identify.
Yeah.
But the purple was interesting to me just because I'm like, I don't know what it means other than does Samuel L. Jackson just really like purple because his lightsaber
Purple
in
is
Star
actually
Wars is
chosen very
purple?
deliberately.
I'm very curious about
Purple is the color of royalty and
Yeah.
the color of divinity.
that. Yeah, the royalty thing I knew, and I was wondering the relation.
He thinks that he is
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
a god among men is really
Yeah.
what he thinks he is. So
Okay.
that is the purple. My favorite use of that, by the way, is when he's running across the street in pursuit of the guy with the
guy
gun,
in the
and the
camouflage.
jacket keeps
Yeah,
flapping
and
open,
the-
and
is
you
the
keep seeing the
inside-
purple inside the jacket.
Yeah.
Because what are he's letting you know his motivations as he's running. He's not really interested in catching this guy. Right? He just wants to
wants
know
to ask a question.
for
Yeah.
research
Yeah.
purposes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
love in that scene too, the shot of his car, the interior of
the
his
interior
car.
of his car, it's
car.
like cushion.
I love that car.
There are these like subtle little details that remind you that you could be watching a superhero movie. that this is like the villain car, like the getaway car, the Batmobile or whatever.
Something
It is,
like
really.
that is
Yeah.
such a quick shot that I'm like, they had to put so much time into cushioning this car for like 5 seconds of screen time, but I love it.
But it's so effective.
It's
it
an
really
impactful 5 seconds.
Yeah, it really stays with you.
Like
Yeah.
the interior of his office in the gallery with that ramp.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you see it twice in the movie, and I was like amazed at the set design there both times.
Yeah.
I also, I mean, just when you the first scene where you see adult Elijah Price in that gallery, and I didn't write down a lot of lines from this movie for quotation, but one that I had to was at the end of that initial interaction with the prospective buyer. This is an art gallery, and you are looking at a work of art.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's his life. It's his everything he cares about. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really with Elijah Price in that moment where, you know, it's like you see comic book art and it's often treated as kind of this low colloquial form, but it really isn't. There's like a lot of, you know, heart and soul and care that goes into it. And that's one thing I find really interesting about this movie is that it feels like both critical and reverent of comic books as a cultural institution.
Interesting that you brought that up, actually, because he actually says when he's selling that piece of art to this gentleman that the painting that he's going to sell or the drawing that he's going to sell is hyper detailed. But when it reaches the printed page, all of these details are lost. It's not, when it gets to the pulp, it loses the respect of the original artist. It's almost like a caricature of what the artist originally created. So,
Right.
in going to your point, it's respecting the art, but then the art disrespects itself.
Yeah.
When it gets out to the page.
the distribution of it, or
Right,
the like
exactly.
the commercialized.
They're only using
aspect.
4 colors instead of like, you know, however many the original artist might have painted it in, or all of those details and the sinew of the muscles and the expressions in the face are just lost to this, you know, caricature of what was originally done. So
or whatever could be mass printed. or
exactly,
whatever.
just to sell it, just to get it out.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
the industry itself disrespects the artist. So very
Yeah.
interesting
Do you know
point.
what that makes me think of as Funny Pages?
Oh yeah.
I think does a really good job of that as well.
Do you know about
Yeah.
this movie, Funny Pages?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's
You
a-
guys have seen it and really liked it. Yeah.
The debut directorial film of Owen Klein, who you might know as the younger brother in The Squid and the Whale.
Oh,
Yeah, so now he's
also,
a director.
Kevin Klein's son.
Son.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Child of Kevin Kline and Phoebe Cates. And Funny Pages, it's a movie. I mean, it's not. I mean, it is a comic book movie, but it's an underground comic book
It's
movie.
not superhero comic.
No, it's not superhero. It's more. This is like more of an R. Crumb style of
Like
comic,
American Splendor.
like
Yeah.
that, or
Okay.
like Ghost World, or things
yeah.
of that sort.
Yeah.
And that's like, I mean, admittedly, that aspect of like the printing, or just the sort of the crudification of comic books. That's one detail of that movie I don't remember
I don't
as
know.
well.
I'm not saying that that's necessarily a detail in that film.
Okay.
But our main character in Funny Pages is kind of an aspiring young comic book artist who meets this like highly revered
I see the connection now.
older
Yeah.
comic book artist who has kind of been forced out of the industry for things that probably were fair.
Yeah.
He's like maybe done some bad things and maybe shouldn't be in the industry anymore, but he has so much of like, this is my art. And like, it's been a while since I've seen this movie, so I feel like I can't speak that highly to it, but I just remember the older comic book character, artist character in this movie having so much reverence for his own art in a way that he felt like wasn't fully respected by the rest of the industry.
And that's why the younger main character looks up to him too. It's
Yeah.
just, purely for love of the art, disregarding the cautionary notes.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, they come back to bite him later on. Just saying, Funny Pages, apart from thematic connections, this is an amazing movie. It was like easily in my top 10 of 2022.
fascinating.
cool.
It's like, maybe it seems audacious to put the word funny in a title, but this movie, if you can stomach cringe humor, it is hysterical.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I was laughing so much that it hurt in that movie. Yeah.
Do recommend.
Nice.
Was there any more that you could think about from it? Because I'll be honest, I am like the last person to like contribute when we're talking about like maybe aesthetics or like thematical stuff from superhero movies.
I've got
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So actually, there was, as the movie came closer to its conclusion, I started to think there were some aspects of David Dunn that actually struck me as a little anti-heroic. And he may not be like a full-blown anti-hero in the vein of like Travis Bickle or someone like that. but he's definitely not at ease in this idea of being a hero. And then when it gets to like what his superhuman capabilities are, and this really hit me during that scene we were talking about earlier of him in the train hall and getting these little touches of other people and seeing their entire stories from there. I mean, he's kind of positioned as like a vigilante there, and it's just, the idea that the heroic act that this character is engaging in is security. I mean, well, that, I think by its nature is not always such a heroic thing. I think, there's a reading of this character where you can see him as actually quite problematic. And so that was, I don't know if that was really M. Night Shyamalan's intention in portrayal, but I think
it was.
Okay, it was.
I know it was because M. Night Shyamalan had said in writing this that he was influenced heavily by Watchmen.
Oh.
And Watchmen is the as much of the anti-superhero comic as you can have. It was about society turning on their heroes because they don't want them to be guarding them and keeping them secure all the time. In fact, it gets to the point where in that comic book, the superheroes are outlawed. There's an actual legislation passed where it said you cannot be a superhero anymore. And actually that even, kind of cross-transferred into the DC Comics universe where in The Dark Knight,
Right.
in that comic, the only superhero that is legal is Superman. And the only reason he's legal is that he has to remain unseen and do his acts without being detected, and he can move fast enough to do that. Batman and Green Arrow and all of the rest are being hunted.
Yeah, and then
At
of
that
course
point.
the Incredibles as well.
Oh, of course. They're the Incredibles. Yeah. Well, no, that's actually very legit. It's the same thing.
Same concept.
Very much the same concept. So he was definitely influenced by the anti-hero, hero aspect of it in writing this script. That is for certain.
I'm also just like, because you were talking a little bit about like the flashes we get in that scene of the different crimes that he's seen, that he's witnessing in his visions, and how they're kind of escalating in severity. And I'm like, how far would he have gone if he didn't get to one that was like murder? Like, how far would he have gone until it's like, that's the one that's bad enough that I have to go
I've
do
been
something
curious about that
it.
too.
Like,
Does he have authority to go, up to the racist guy and be like,
yeah.
don't you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever.
And I'm also curious at what level of badness, of evil, the thing that you've done makes you detected by David Dunn. Like, everyone does some bad things, but he bumps into a lot of people that he doesn't get visions of, who have probably done some bad things. And I'm just curious, like, at what point is it evil enough to be detected?
Well, I also have an accompanying thought to that is the crimes in the first 3 instances that he detects in the train station are over.
That's true.
Yeah.
They've already been completed.
One of them, you're right.
The crime that he detects with number 4 with Mr. Orange is still in progress.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
It's like he can do something about this.
Right.
As opposed to being like,
Give that
hey,
necklace
man.
back.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which he's probably already pawned and whatever else.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, actually, maybe this speaks more to the revisionist aspects of the movie, that there were a number of points throughout it, even close to the end, where I was still like skeptical of the idea of David Dunn being superhuman in all the ways that are stated. Like I did not doubt the idea of him being unbreakable in the way that's established. Like there's enough detail to prove that.
And it's in the title.
And it's in the title.
There's that too.
Yeah, but it's also, I think it is probably the most abundantly, up to a certain point in the movie, the most abundantly developed aspect of his superhuman abilities. But then, when it comes to his ability, this touch superpower, and also this aversion to water that he has, like those were some of the details where I was more skeptical. I was like, is he really superhuman? Or does he just have like, a skill with, detecting other people? And is he, anyone would drown if exposed to too much water.
Right.
I feel like Elijah kind of tries to explain this, that it's not that he is necessarily more susceptible to death by water, but it's like the one thing he can't overcome.
That's a fair
he's
point,
as
yeah.
susceptible to water as
anybody
else.
else.
Yeah.
Right,
Like,
right.
anybody else that like landed in the middle of a pool, like, and got wrapped up in a pool tarp or whatever would probably
Beautiful
drown.
image, by the way.
I know, that was great.
But the
Yeah,
him and then
Yeah.
suddenly just getting folded in.
I know,
Oh,
getting
my
sucked
God.
down into it.
Yeah.
I know, that was really,
Yeah.
pretty great.
But yeah, so that skepticism that I felt, it was not that's not like a knock at the film's quality. That just kind of struck me as part of its unpacking or its kind of reversal of superhero movie tropes.
Yeah, I have a question. Just because you were kind of you were mentioning this earlier about like, is he or is he not truly unbreakable? Like, because in some ways the film, and I think from Elijah's perception and what he's kind of the idea he has of he has to build this skill, you can't die. But the scene where Joseph gets the gun and like loads the gun and points the gun at his dad, I'm like, is he right? Like, could Joseph have shot his father and had nothing happen? I genuinely want to know what you guys think.
I love that you don't know.
I know. I love that you don't. I love that it's
Yeah.
left unresolved, but
But it's like, maybe he's right.
there are
Yeah.
clues. And again, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but since I'm such a fanatic nerd about this movie, on the DVD when I purchased it, there were deleted scenes.
Okay.
Okay.
When we were talking about the weightlifting scene.
Right.
That scene, what struck me about it was that no matter how much weight they put on those bars, he struggled to get the weight up,
Yeah.
but got it up.
Yeah.
And it was the same struggle no matter how much weight they put on it.
And he always does a second.
And he always does a second to show it's not a fluke. Now, there's a deleted scene after where he goes back to the stadium at Temple into the football players' weight room.
Goes there to see if he can wrap it up.
How far can I take this?
Ooh.
And when he gets to 600 pounds,
Jesus Christ.
he finally realizes that the entire football team is watching him. You could put 6,000 pounds on that. He's still going to lift it. There's no
Interesting.
limit. If they had shown that scene, it would have been far clearer
Yeah.
that is what it would have been. No matter what you try to do, if he had to lift a car over his head,
Yeah.
he'd find a way to do it. He'd have the strength in him to do it.
Yeah.
Not once, but twice. It wouldn't be a fluke.
See, you know what though? But I feel like this is a stronger movie because you don't get that
Exactly.
scene.
Yeah.
I think it was a good cut. I think it was a good deletion to leave that sort of thing implied. And I think what's awesome and why it works really well is that in that ending scene in the house where Mr. Orange is
Yeah.
there, that scene to me, and you were talking about how there's not that much action in the
But
film.
that
I
action
love
scene.
That is one of my favorite action scenes.
It's my favorite. Like,
just because
kill.
all he does is not let
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter how hard this guy's bashing him into the wall,
Yeah.
smashing him around, he literally, his grip is unbreakable.
Yeah.
I think it was better that scene from the weight room was not in it
Yeah.
because it makes that reveal of how strong
Yeah.
he actually is. That you could literally throw him against the ceiling and bash holes in walls with his body,
Yeah.
and he's still not letting go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, one shot,
One take.
one
Yeah.
take, and it's like this is his whole life was building to this. Him being able to do this,
Right.
and I think it's aided a lot by the music. But that's an emotion that a movie like Shawshank Redemption is like trying to get you on board with.
The score really does manipulate
the
your
score
emotions in this movie.
manipulates you in a big
The
way.
score is a triumph. I love listening. I just love listening to the score.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
tells the story.
It's so oddly emotional, and it works so well. And then the scene with
The kid.
the kid,
The gun is
yeah,
incredible.
I mean that scene still gives the chills.
It
man.
does.
It's
Yeah.
so powerful.
It was actually very controversial at the time. Back then, it's so irresponsible to show a scene like that with a kid having, well, you know what? This is
Yeah.
this is where
reality.
we live.
Yeah.
This is America.
Murphy's Law stuff.
That's it. That's America.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of like how we were just talking about Heathers and some of the violence that movie depicts being like, I mean, it feels terrible to say this, but ahead of its time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love how it's written. It's written that the thing that actually pulls the kid off of the ledge is the dad's like,
I'm going to leave.
I'm going to
Yeah.
leave. It's not that I'm going to be dead. It's that this idea of a family that you want to hold on to. In the very beginning of the film, you see that it's the kid that puts their hands together when he comes out of the hospital.
Right. And then
He
as soon as
takes
he
their
turns
hands and
around,
turns
they let
around,
go.
they let
disengage.
it go. And it's like that's his real desire, is that his family can stay together. And so that detail, and then the other detail, honestly, going back to the Bruce Willis acting performance, I don't know if it's like the dad chops in him, but when he's like, Joseph, you're about to be in big trouble, like the way he sells that, I'm like, you've said that before.
Absolutely.
Really meant it.
Joseph's heard that conversation before.
Yeah. I'm also thinking just like Bruce Willis has said that.
That too. Yes, that's drawn from real life.
I was
exactly.
going to say, because he says it, and it's just like I can completely see it.
I'm going to circle back 1 second to the use of color and that whole red, yellow, green, orange.
Oh yeah, do it.
In that scene at the end, which I love, which I think is Bruce Willis's best acting in the whole film, when he just pushes the paper forward to the kid. And remember, this kid is on a journey too. Joseph, who is convinced his father, is a superhero.
Superman. Yeah.
He's convinced his father, even when his father is not.
Mm-hmm.
What is he drinking at the time when the
orange
I'm
juice.
gonna say
orange juice?
Orange juice.
He pours orange juice into a cup just as the paper is pushed. His belief is activated at that moment. Orange is present. So just another little thing.
Love it.
Just a little bit.
That's awesome. That's so good.
And also, like for a scene that you can consider his acceptance of this superhero mold. It's a pretty sad, quiet scene too. It's not the triumphant thing that you might come to expect from a more traditional superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's bittersweet.
It's really funny. Have you, Matt, seen the movie The Wedding Banquet, the Ang Lee film?
I did not.
Okay, that's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I know you guys have.
I know of it.
Yeah, it's a very
You've
good movie.
mentioned it.
Yeah, I have mentioned it. I love The Wedding Banquet. I think it's the Ang Lee proof of concept. Like you see it and you're like, oh my god, this guy is really onto something. But the ending of that film also has this very like bittersweet thing where you're like, it's a triumph, but is it really?
Mm-hmm.
If there's some aspect of the movie that feels unresolved, and this movie, Unbreakable, also has it, because yes, it feels like in some way the relationship between him and his wife is better, but it also is, there's a secret that he feels like he has to.
They can't. And again, he can't tell her. Yeah. But now there's two secrets. He can't tell her that he was never injured in college, that he never was really hurt, and now he also can't tell her that he's a superhero either.
Yeah.
It's adding to the angst. Not only that, the bittersweetness of the scene, I think, is heightened by the fact that although he stops Mr. Orange and he rescues those kids, he did not fully succeed in that scene.
Yeah,
he was too
parents
late
are dead.
to rescue their mother.
Yeah, that's right.
Had he gotten there slightly earlier, he might have.
Yeah, right.
That's always going to haunt him. Had I gotten there in time, I could have saved her too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's so much feeding that lack of happiness, of genuine joy at discovering. There's relief, there's satisfaction of knowledge, but there can't be joy.
Right.
In that scene.
Because it does feel in many ways like a triumph. But then the twist is this.
Whose triumph is it?
Yeah, exactly. It's whose triumph is it? And then also it's a triumph, but knowing that he has this skill now, he also knows that this is the world that is now open to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that for the end of the spectrum he represents, there's this other one.
He's going to see darkness like he's never seen before as a result of knowing who he is.
Yeah.
So just like Mr. Glass is going to have to be confronted by the fact that there's going to be someone like him out there who can stop him.
Right.
For everything, there's an equal and opposite.
Yeah. The very end of that scene too, Samuel L. Jackson delivers the line when he's like, I'm not a mistake.
All right.
Oh my God.
Now that we know who you are, I know who I am. I'm not a mistake.
I'm not a mistake.
Yeah, because I was like, what is Elijah's motivation? With like, he has put a lot of effort and time into trying to track down an unbreakable person.
Right.
Why?
So that he has his arch nemesis.
Yeah, exactly.
That is
and his life purpose.
Right. And to know that he is not the way he is because of just some random twist of fate.
I think that modern superhero films have conditioned me to have certain expectations from superhero movies that this movie diverts from in really interesting ways. So I think like there's a moment in this movie before I see the twist, where I'm like, I can tell Elijah is probably up to some nonsense. And I'm like, does he want to like figure out a way to cure himself, and he needs the unbreakable man sweat or whatever, because that's what it would be.
That would be a totally legitimate comic book right there.
Exactly.
I think it would be great. Actually.
But I think that would be like a more modern movie. That this movie is not.
Right. You're right. That his thrust is like to cure something of himself or whatever.
It's like that's like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like there's like Spider-Man villains that's their thing, right?
Yeah,
I don't
these
know
are very
Spider-Man.
quiet ambitions.
Mr. Freeze in the DC Comics universe, he was trying to find a way to bring his dead wife back to life, or his suspended animation. To find the cure for himself by
like
using
a Dracula. Or
you know,
like that,
it's out there. But we should talk about the twist, because I think that was my
let's talk about it.
My question was, how is he able to succeed? And again, we already knew going in that there's a twist coming from the auteur who brought you The Sixth Sense. Get ready for the twist in this one, and yet even afterwards, and again, the reviews will say it, didn't see it coming, not that way.
I just love also too that the twist in this movie is so rooted in something not superhuman, but the human condition.
Right.
The idea of purpose, finding your path in life, feeling like self-contentment, and knowing that that's different for everybody. It's so powerful. And I love that it's that and not, like you said, like the sweat of the Unbreakable
I think it's
Man.
the emotional investment in the characters, and particularly in Elijah, that hides the twist from you so effectively. That's what it is.
I think you're totally right.
You're so busy, so engrossed in Elijah was proven right. Now
to what end?
Now, to what end? And I don't know if you guys noticed it, but did you see what his next target was? If he failed with David Dunn.
Oh no!
I feel like I got
great
this.
detail.
It was right in front of your eyes, because at the end, when he says, "Now that we know who you are, and that we know what," David Dunn is looking
he's
around
looking
the room,
at the newspaper
All the
clippings.
and he sees all the clippings, except that there's a blueprint, and there is also a computer showing a 3-dimensional moving image on it of the football stadium. That was his next target. He was going to kill 40,000 people, was his next target. He was going to blow up, and he had a big bomb that he was building. You saw the blueprints for it.
Yeah.
He was going to blow the stadium up and kill everybody in it.
And he could test David again through that
Perhaps
too.
He would be there.
Right.
You're right.
Perhaps in an unlikely shared universe, there's someone in the camp of a one Ra's al Ghul or Bane gets a hold of these plans and actually succeeds at doing this in a football stadium outside of Gotham City.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, though,
that's
I
early.
know I love it. I like to make room for just little details that really stuck with us about this movie.
I have a quick one,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
is when Joseph is flipping through the television channels.
I think you're going to say what I'm going to say.
I don't think so. I that would be weird. Because mine is that he passes the Powerpuff Girls,
Powerpuff Girls, yeah.
and that I had that episode on VHS.
Oh, wow.
I don't know
that's not
why.
what I was gonna say.
I would be really surprised if you also had that Powerpuff Girls episode on VHS. But I mean, the show was on all the time. I don't know why I had a VHS copy of 2 episodes, and that was one of them.
That was one of them. The detail I thought you were going to mention is, and I'm wondering if you catch this because you've seen this so many times, in the news report of the
train crash.
The reporter is talking back to somebody who's ostensibly in the newsroom, and he says, "I can't believe what's happening here, David," or something. And he says the name David.
David. Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
Wow, that's a good
he
one.
says the name David, which, knowing everything that goes on in this movie, like, has to be intentional.
Oh, just like the names of the 3 main male characters in the film, David, Elijah, and Joseph are all
Biblical.
visionary prophets, dreaming prophets. They all have dreams of divine dreams.
Gotcha.
Joseph, knowing that his father is what he is, and David and Elijah being that to me was a nice little touch.
Love it.
I looked to see if there was anything about Audrey's name that was biblical. There was not. Actually, Audrey wasn't created until the Middle Ages, but her name does mean noble strength. So take from that what you will, but that is it. But yes, the fact that their names are all visionary prophets was a nice little detail.
I love it.
And we haven't talked much about Robin Wright's performance in this movie yet, but I loved her too.
She was great.
She's
Yeah,
great.
in the scenes that she's in, she's quite effective.
Yeah, and I think she really grounds the more down to earth parts of the movie, where it's like she's present for a lot of the scenes having to do with marital strife. Those are things that whatever superhuman trappings there are along the way. I mean, David Dunn can't escape his marital strife, and that particularly struck me, and it felt more salient in this kind of story than it might in other comic book movies. Like I'm thinking, there's a whole bunch of examples, but for some reason, the one that's coming to my mind right now is Doctor Strange, where there's there is some marital conflict between the Benedict Cumberbatch and Rachel McAdams characters.
Are they married?
I believe they're married in that movie, but it's like, it's not developed that much. It's kind of just there to set the stage. But in Unbreakable, it's developed.
Yeah, it's developed, and also so much of the emotional payoff of this movie hinges on the fact that there's something going on there that they need to work on.
Another one of my favorite lines in the movie, I had a bad dream.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that at the end when he carries her up the stairs.
Yeah.
Gliding up like a feather.
Yeah,
up the
that
stairs.
shot is really interesting.
I know, right?
Where she just glides.
Yep.
It's like a dream.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Love it.
When it comes to little details that I enjoyed about the movie, actually, to go back to the twist for one moment, as much as the information of it is very clearly communicated, I like how they never say what it is in an on-the-nose way, which that's a strength that's shared with The Sixth Sense. There's enough visual storytelling that it allows you to infer what's going on. And I think the same thing is true in Unbreakable, where there's dialogue present in Unbreakable in a way that there's not in The Sixth Sense.
Right.
But still, it doesn't spoon feed it to you. There is like a good balance of conveying the information and still letting you, the viewer, apply your own interpretive skills to it.
Right.
That's one aspect of the story that I really respected. But also one little kind of technical detail that I was very into when it happened. And it's not like blink and you miss it, but it's, if you're not paying attention to it, it could be pretty missable. And maybe it helps that I was wearing headphones while watching it. But that scene when Elijah leaves a voicemail
message
on David's answering machine I believe it's about his water weakness.
Right.
And slowly as that goes along, you hear it's kind of, the sound is fine at first, but it gets noticeably sharper.
And then he's in the room at the end. It's off the phone, and he's in the room.
Yes.
The way
I do remember that.
Great.
It's
the way the
great
sound
detail.
sharpens there, I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's great.
I remember catching that too. Very cool. On a similar note of that, you were talking about how much you love the score. I went back and rewatched the scene where Elijah first divulges his theory. And if you listen really closely, embedded under there is the same theme that David Dunn gets. In that scene, it's so subtle. And I love that. I love that it ties them together. There's also a lot of fun parallel editing. The whole scene after the wait scene, it cuts right to Elijah just immobilized on the bed, being like, "You've broken this. You've broken this. You've broken this. You've broken."
Oh,
this.
I know. You've had 50. You have 30, whatever it is, 32 breaks in the.
Oh, whatever. Yeah.
It's like terrible.
Yeah, but the movie really does a great job of playing the two of them, side by side. You're constantly asked to consider both of them and their relationship to one another.
And by the way, on that little theme visually, if you want to talk about a really minuscule detail that only someone as neurotic as myself would notice, look at the color of the floor mats in the physical therapy office when Audrey is talking to Elijah.
I don't remember.
They are green and purple.
Oh, are they?
Yes.
Okay.
Intertwined.
Nice.
So just another
Yeah.
little
Just
thing.
lovely just reconnecting everything.
Yeah.
Did you have more?
Yeah, I have one more. Just that Elijah makes a comment at one point about how part of the reason that he got so into comics was because he was hospitalized so much. Like, I know that we get the backstory, obviously, of his mom kind of bribing him to go outside by giving him comics. But he also says, I was constantly in the hospital recovering from some sort of injury or sickness. And so I had a lot of time to read comic books. And that just reminds me of this book that I read last year called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. There's 3 tomorrows. And it's actually, it has kind of a similar, it's not a superhero thing. But one of the two main characters of that movie gets in a really bad car accident when he's very young and is in the hospital for like months. And his thing in this is video games. He like gets really into playing like Nintendo. I think this happens in like, it's set in like the late 80s is when this happens. So he's like on like an original like Nintendo NES.
Whatever, yeah.
And so he gets so invested in this, and then like that does kind of change the trajectory of his life, and that he becomes like a game designer. And so yeah, I just wanted to kind of make that connection, because that's, I think, a pretty enjoyable. I mean, it's like YA and it is what it is, but I think it's a pretty enjoyable book that a lot of people liked, and I enjoyed more or less. And yeah, I just thought about that connection.
Interesting. I was also thinking about how with the characterization of Elijah, that when you think about his motivations, I see something in him that's maybe a little more conventional in a superhero story, which is the sense that, yes, he has dealt with severe hardship from a very early age, but that unlike the hero who maybe has dealt with something comparable and finds purpose in doing good for people conventionally, then there's also the archetypal villain in a comic book story who has been beaten down by the world and then just has this kind of nihilism or fatalism where they sort of think like they don't care if it all burns up, that their way of repaying the world for what they went through is to perpetuate that destruction. I see that in Elijah as well, and that's one detail that, in spite of all the revisionism in this movie, that struck me as something a little more conventional that is allowed to remain there, but it still feels like a very original take on it with some real world grounding, given that a lot of the acts that Elijah orchestrates, even if there's not superhuman, but even if there are fantastical means to it, these are things that can really happen in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that's, just in really driving home all the groundedness of this movie. Those were some other aspects that really stood out to me.
Yeah. I have one more very minor detail that I caught on my Forfeits rewatch, which is that when Joseph is playing football, and he's like, oh, they have like a guy, it's like it's a big guy, it's like what's his face's cousin, it's like my friend's cousin or whatever. It's the guy that Kelly was gonna scout.
Yes.
Yep.
Which I didn't catch the first time.
And he says he's like, oh, he heard he's gonna be a big deal, and then Joseph says like he runs
the 40 in 4.3 seconds.
And then David says, so I've heard.
So
or something.
I've heard. Yeah. That totally passed me the first time, so I was really glad to catch it the second time.
I like that connection there too. It's pretty fun.
And one little detail, not something that I personally noticed, but something kind of paratextual that Shyamalan points out, is that there's a kid and his mom who bump into David Dunn at the stadium, and that are, according to Shyamalan himself, that is, I forget his name now. I think Kevin, the main character of Split.
Oh, that is Split. Right.
Yeah.
That is from Split. Yes.
Yeah. And his mother.
That's actually revealed in, I think it was revealed in Split. Or it was a Glass, maybe, that it was revealed.
Yeah. I didn't see Glass.
I did not
It was
see
in Glass. It was
now
in Glass.
I feel like I have to.
Yeah.
So
it was in Glass.
If you watch Unbreakable alone, you wouldn't know,
Right.
that character from anyone else. But that is, a paratextual, at least at that point, paratextual connection that Shyamalan made.
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. That is in Glass. So,
can we make some time for maybe some unlikely shared universe?
Absolutely. Who'd like to go first?
Matt, you're our guest. Do you want to start this one off?
I guess I'll start it off. I mean, okay, so my actor who I chose was Bruce Willis. And I hope I'm doing this right, because I'm not one of you guys. I don't know if I'm ever doing this, so I'm hoping I'm doing this right. So I was trying to think, like, how could I connect this David Dunn to someone else in some universe? And my original thought was, could David Dunn be John McClane in disguise?
Maybe?
He's a cop, he's a
interesting.
protector. But I'm going to give full credit where credit is due. I was actually talking to my son, who is 15, and who is also a big movie nerd like myself about movies like this. And I mentioned it. He's like, oh, you're totally off. That's not the good one. I'm like, really? What's the good? He's like, He's Corbin Dallas from The Fifth Element. First of all, and this is something that I kind of fleshed out for him a little bit. In Glass, just so you know, and I don't know if you know the ending of it.
I don't. It's fine.
I'm going to spoil alert.
That's fine.
David Dunn dies.
Oh.
Okay.
He drowns.
Yeah. That's the only way he can die.
He's drowned. But my son pointed out in Justice League, Superman died too. He was killed by Doomsday. And yet, when the kryptonite was out of his system and he'd been underground for a couple of days or whatever, and then they revive him in that chamber or whatever, he comes back. Maybe David Dunn can drown, but maybe when the water evaporates from his lungs after he comes back,
Love that.
maybe he could be alive. Like, that's interesting because that would, yes, he's got a weakness to water, but if that water is gone, maybe his body would respond by coming back. So let's just say, hypothetically, you bring him back. And then we fast forward 500 years into the future.
Gotcha.
Now, if you have a person who truly can't die, who's truly unbreakable, he's going to every now and then have to create a new alter ego for himself, a new identity, just to live. Because nobody's 300 years old. So fast forward 500 years in the future, and what do we have? We have Corbin Dallas, ex-military.
I was going to say ex-military. Yep, ex-military.
Who's charged with protecting the public, who then becomes the protector of, the most important being in the universe.
Exactly.
Her personal protector. And just to point out, no matter how many freaking bullets they fire at this guy and lasers and everything else, and how they never hurt once in the film. Not even once.
That's true.
No injuries. Not even a cut, as far as I can remember.
Not a scratch on him.
Nothing. Not a scratch. Not a scratch on him. There really isn't. So always seems to be just strong enough to get out of trouble, doesn't he? That's
He really
what it is.
does. Yeah,
So
that's a good one.
I kind of really like that. Was my son's suggestion. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. But yes, that is the kind of connection that I would try to make.
Okay.
That was exactly the assignment.
That is it. Yeah, you did it. You did it.
I also I really like that you brought in Glass and Split, because something I struggled with in creating mine is I was like, well, I haven't seen Glass, so I don't know, but the royal know what happens to some of these characters, at least in the next couple of decades, more or less, because they're sequels. And we've seen their backstories enough. We kind of know where they came from. So I was like, I'm struggling with that. So I love that you incorporated that. And so for mine, I did not choose a character. So I ended up just fixating on this disease that Mr. Glass has, which is osteogenesis imperfecta. And I made that my character. So that's what I'm going to be connecting.
Interesting. I like that.
So perhaps, we don't know this. Oh, we probably do know this. I don't know whether or not osteogenesis imperfecta only affects humans. It could, in fact, affect fish. Possibly.
Fairly certain it affects all animals in some way.
So it probably does affect fish in some way.
Affects cartilage too.
Exactly. So perhaps everyone's favorite sea sponge, except for Matt's, is going door to door selling chocolate bars underwater for some reason, and knocks on a door and happens upon a fish resident of Bikini Bottom who suffers from this disease. And this poor fish in his full body cast says the following: I was born with glass bones and paper skin. Every morning I break my legs, and every afternoon I break my arms. At night, I lie awake in agony until my heart attacks put me to sleep. Which is very sad.
Oh my God.
But is an actual quote
Depressing.
from SpongeBob.
It is.
So that is a early, I looked it up, season 3 episode of SpongeBob where they happen upon this fish who, in my theory, has osteogenesis imperfecta.
Wow.
Do you remember the twist with that fish though?
There's a twist to that one?
There is a twist to that
Did
one.
Shyamalan write this episode?
Who knows? No, you can easily find that out. Shyamalan, I'm sure he didn't write it, but
You don't know that.
the twist with that
he wrote
fish
Stuart
though
Little.
is that he's
not above writing children's
okay.
things. Sorry, go ahead.
okay, but the twist with that fish though is that he is swindling SpongeBob.
Yeah, he is
and Patrick.
faking it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Okay.
we're going to ignore that.
But maybe,
That's
you
fine.
know,
we
the news,
ignore things a lot.
Maybe there's
for this.
news in this unlikely shared universe that makes it down under the sea, and that guy finds out and takes
You
inspiration.
know what? That's a better
I like
read.
that.
Yeah.
Somehow it makes its way back.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I have another unlikely shared universe with another prominent character of Unbreakable. So let's say that we find out at the end of the movie that, you know, shortly after this twist reveal that we've gone into, there is text on the screen that tells us that, you know, soon after that final event takes place, David reports Elijah to the authorities and Elijah is imprisoned. Let's say that while he's in prison, though, like somehow miraculously this, you know, osteogenesis
Imperfecta.
imperfecta just goes away. He's okay after a while. But then, he's, a theme that we've touched on before, maybe his body's okay, but his conscience is not. And so then he, rather than seeing himself as a godlike figure anymore, he's so jaded and disillusioned by what's happened to him that he decides he wants to destroy the godlike figures. And so then maybe he, I don't know if there's any good behavior or anything, or if he just breaks out, but he's out of this prison or asylum after a while, and he maybe hears in the news about this small group of people who can teleport, and decides he wants to destroy. And so he founds this organization of some kind, this movement called the Paladins, and goes on the hunt for these teleporters, and has a very near success with at least one of them. And while he's going about this, he changes his name to Roland Cox too. He wants to shed this whole Mr. Glass persona and assume a new identity to draw the optics away from that, and yet still cause mayhem in the world. Does anyone know this connection?
I'm actually drawing a blank.
Has anyone here seen the movie Jumper?
Yes, I've seen Jumper. Yeah, I've seen Jumper. Yes.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
Samuel L. Jackson plays the villain in that film. And this is, for whatever level of familiarity you have already, this is a Doug Liman directed sci-fi movie from the late aughts with Hayden Christensen in one of his few post-Star Wars roles as the lead, playing a jumper, a guy who can just teleport. And
gotcha. Okay.
Not just guy that jumps very high. Jumps through space and time. Okay.
He doesn't.
Not Matt when you were very young coming out of Superman.
No, not like that. No.
And another interesting connection too is that in both Jumper and Unbreakable, the superhuman capabilities in them, they're not explained at all. They're just there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. A Jumper was critically that movie's not well regarded, but if my my memory of seeing it as an 11-year-old serves me at all, it's a fun movie
for an 11-year-old.
There are a lot of movies I saw
fun.
when I was 11 that are maybe not critically regarded.
Yeah,
but okay, this is not Unlikely Shared Universe. It's Unlikely Shared quote that just triggered my brain. Couldn't help it. When Elijah is getting rehab with Audrey, this will lead into my Unlikely Shared Universe, but he talks about, he's asking her these questions, and, she doesn't understand the connection that Elijah has to her husband. So she's divulging this information, and as a way of deflecting or kind of redirecting attention, he just says, in situations like this, or when I get nervous, I ask a lot of questions. And I could not help but think of the other Samuel L. Jackson line where he goes, "Now, when you yell at me, you make me nervous. And when I get nervous, I get scared." It just came right back to me so fast. Yeah, I love that. On the subject of Audrey, though, my Unlikely Shared Universe would go something like this. There are not a lot of markers for the time of the setting in the movie. There are a couple. We know that Elijah was born in 1961. And I guess the movie sort of implies that it's happening in like modern day,
right?
Something like if the movie's filmed in 1999 or 2000, it's like around there.
Yeah. Again, if Joseph is flipping through the channels and passes the Powerpuff Girls, then I'm going to put late 90s.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this goes slightly against
fine.
that. Oh no, yeah,
Reruns.
I got you. You know what though? Fair enough. I think there might be a case to be made for this movie happening maybe around 1990. I'm going to make a case for that.
Sure.
Okay. Elijah's health condition could easily age him to the point where he looks 10 years older than he actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really know how old David is. That's never really mentioned here.
Well, if you go by my universe, he could be of indeterminate age.
Exactly.
There you go.
Thousands of years old.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll just say that this movie happens in like 1989 or 1990 or so.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. We see that Audrey, she works as a physical therapist in the Philadelphia area, and she seems to have a love-hate relationship with contact sports. She's clearly drawn to the athletic type, though, but she doesn't like the physical toll that sports as a profession brings. But it's at her work that she meets a young, recently retired baseball player named Billy, who has just started scouting for the Oakland A's. And is watching the Phillies at this time. He needs PT from nagging injuries that he's had from his playing days, but they hit it off. Instant connection. Look, Billy is movie star handsome. It is, and it's baseball. It's baseball. It's not like a smash mouth sport like football, so we're good. You guys remember that scene where Audrey she knocks on the door and she asks David if he's been with anybody else since they've been having their troubles. He tells her no. She bursts into tears and she says sorry before she's able to compose herself again. Why does she behave like this? Because while he had stayed faithful to her, she hadn't.
Audrey.
Dun, dun, dun.
But she's got a real thing for this guy Billy, and in her heart, yes, she very much wants to reconcile with David. But when it's revealed that their new friend Elijah is a domestic terrorist, and it tendentially puts the Dunns in a spotlight, which is something that ends all their hopes for normalcy and reconciliation for good. But she runs off with this guy named Billy, whose full name is Billy Bean. She changes her name to Sharon to sever all ties to David Dunn, and she and Billy, they quickly start a new life together, and she gets pregnant with their daughter Casey. They relocate to the West Coast, live a pretty comfortable life, but this marriage ends up running its course too, and she realizes that she's really happiest with a less alpha-like energy in her husband, something more like Spike Jonze. Do we know what movie this is?
Yeah, it's that Moneyball.
Yeah.
Moneyball. I've only seen that once.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. No, yeah, I've seen it once and a long time ago at that.
Yeah.
Moneyball.
Yeah. That's
Seen it
Robin
more
Wright.
than once.
I love that movie.
I gotta come
It's
back
so
to
good.
that.
It's
Yeah.
so well written.
It's a good film.
Yeah, it's one of those good, just classic Aaron Sorkin films. Any final thoughts?
This was fun, man.
Yeah,
Had a great
it was
time.
fun. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
it was my
thank
pleasure.
You
No,
thank
I had
you
a
so
great
much,
time.
Matt.
Like with many movies we've discussed in the past, if I didn't have, this specific purpose to watch it, I might have put it off longer, and I'm really grateful now that I've seen it.
So glad.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
One of my faves.
Yeah.
I see why.
I gotta say, coming back to it, all of the stuff that felt exciting to me when I was a teenager has totally deepened with this movie. I really, really like it. So
And its quality is, we might say, unbreakable.
There you go.
love it.
Dig it. Dig it.
We have social media stuff,
Yes,
right?
we do. So we're on Instagram and TikTok at Sleepless Cinematic Pod, and you can email us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com.
If you want to follow me individually on Letterboxd, you can follow me at Julian_Barthold or Madeline at
Patroness of Cats.
And if this is your first time listening to this podcast, we would ask you to please, if you enjoyed it, to write us a positive review on your podcast platform of choice. Like I said before, it is something that really does help us get the word out and in through the algorithms so that this is something that we can continue to do. Thank you guys so much. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, guys.
And thank you for this recommendation. Have a good night.